From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics. Proudly combating the thought police since 2016, here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. We're back from our break, and what a wild couple of weeks it's been. It started when I booked and shot 2 commercials. No big deal. Then I was out on the road doing comedy shows in North Dakota and in Minnesota, and at the end of that tour, it culminated with what I would consider a near-death experience to a damn blizzard. But that's a different story for a different video, because I'm back in LA, and we're going to be covering the latest breaking news for you. And what a wild couple of weeks it's been in the news. The biggest change that you'll see in the world is that once again, the controversy of gun control has ignited, but this time it's different. Following the heartbreaking Valentine's Day massacre in Florida, the country is taking an introspective look at what kind of country we want to be when it comes to gun control. And there's actually a little bit of progress that we can report. It's unbelievable. And I'm not going to say that President Trump is doing a great job at gun control, because that's just simply not true. But I did hear something unexpected from him when he declared on Monday that he is willing to take on the NRA. He said, "You guys, half of you guys are so afraid of the NRA. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you know what, if they're not with you, then we have to fight them every once in a while. And that's okay." I didn't expect to hear that from Trump. And there's ideas on the table including strengthening the national instant criminal background check system, raising the age limit for purchasing assault rifles from 18 to 21, and outlawing bump stocks. This new look at the gun debate was largely prompted by the activism of young survivors, high school kids who watched their friends die and are speaking out. And it actually seems to be, at least so far, the tipping point in the conversation about guns in the country. In Oregon, it was the first state to pass a new gun law since this shooting. The bill outlaws men convicted of domestic abuse from purchasing guns. So in Oregon, if you're a convicted domestic abuser of any kind, you can't buy a gun. And now dozens of high-profile companies have severed their sponsorship deals with the NRA. Companies like Delta Airlines, United Airlines, Hertz, MetLife, Enterprise, Best Western, they used to have discounts for NRA members, but that's no more. And I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to hear that there's some anger in the conservative community. But I'll tell you what, it's time for them to check themselves before they wreck themselves, because it's not taking away Second Amendment rights. These are companies that were giving discounts. They were making it so that if you weren't part of the NRA, you had to pay more money for your airline tickets. All they're saying is nobody gets a discount. According to a new report, Russian military spies hacked hundreds of computers at the 2018 Olympic Games in South Korea. And then they tried to make it look like North Korea did it. It was a likely retaliation against the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, for banning Russia from the Olympics because of a widespread doping scheme it used to cheat in previous competitions. Russia's military intelligence agency, GRU, G-R-U, accessed as many as 300 Olympics-related computers earlier this month, using North Korean IP addresses. It's kind of like they logged into their VPN and were like, well, I don't want to look like I'm in Russia, let's say we're in North Korea. And then they hacked the computers. It's a pretty simple tactic, actually, and it seems like they almost wanted to get caught. I don't know, I'm digressing. But soon after the games began this month, a Russian cyber spying group linked to GRU, Fancy Bear, which, can I just say that's an awesome team name, Fancy Bear, they released a set of stolen emails. Why does this sound so familiar? Russia hacking emails, doping, to cheat. It seems like history's repeating itself. Wake up, people! Russia will do anything to get on top. Anything. The Supreme Court on Monday decided not to enter the national controversy over the Dreamers. If you'll recall, last September, Trump decided unilaterally that the Senate had to fix DACA before it expired in March. This is what prompted the government shutdown that we were covering earlier this year. See, it's all coming together. It's a big storyline. The Trump administration requested that the Supreme Court immediately review lower court decisions that keep in place the program that protects Dreamers from deportation. Federal district judges now in California and New York have issued nationwide injunctions against ending the program. Let the dreamers stay, the lower courts say. And now that the Supreme Court will not get involved, the White House and the Congress are left to figure it all out for themselves. It's the climax of the story coming up right now. Memo drama. If you were watching before the break, then you probably heard a lot about these dueling memos coming out of the Senate. The Republicans had a memo, and the Democrats had a memo, and everybody wanted theirs to get out. Release the memo! I started to think it was like the Kraken coming out of the middle of America to just destroy the government. Well, now both memos have been released. Sheesh! That was a long wait. Let's find out what they have to do with. Well, the newest one released, the Schiff memo, the Democratic memo, I don't think you can call it Democratic, the Democrat memo, undermines Republican claims. The memo indicates that parts of the infamous Steele dossier may now be verified. It asserts that Carter Page's lies may have helped trigger the FISA application and provides an exact quote from the FISA application that undermines GOP claims of deception. Yet, these dueling memos do little to bring the American people back together. We just need to take a long, hard look at what appears to be a constitutional crisis and seems to be designed not for us to gain anything, but it's triggering competing news coverage. They're just getting hits and views, and we're losing democracy. The Mueller investigation continues with or without a memo. They don't need one. He's like a train on tracks. He's the engineer. He might know where they're headed. It's up for us to just watch. But there was a huge break this week. Former Trump campaign aide Richard Gates pled guilty and now has flipped to become an informant to Mueller. So that train just got a brand new conductor, and it's going to help conduct a probe into Trump. Gates and Paul Manafort were doing a lot of shady business with Russia in the decade before and into the Trump campaign and further into, and this is important, the time when Trump was actually moved into the Oval Office. Paul Manafort is widely thought to be a colluder-in-chief of the Russian scandal of interfering with the 2016 election. But at this point, we're still waiting on Mueller's investigation to say for sure. But if there's one thing we know, this train is unstoppable. A historic thaw swelled over the tip of the planet this weekend. An enormous storm pushed an intense pulse of heat through the Greenland Sea, and analyses show that the temperature warmed to the melting point at the North Pole. Now keep in mind, this is winter. This time of year at the North Pole, it's typically negative 40 degrees. It hit 37 degrees. In gambling, that's a pretty wide spread of 80. Keep in mind that this time of year, the North Pole, there's no sun either. The sun's not even going to rise until March 21st, yet it's above freezing now. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?